All right. Well, first and foremost, it's very nice to meet you.
Hey, yeah, likewise, Max. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Um, Absolutely adored the show. If I'm being perfectly honest, this is probably my favorite of the year. It was such a joy to wake up every
All right,
Wednesday
on.
morning and watch an episode of X-Men '97. Just absolutely
All
just
right. Did
knocked
you
it
do
out of
the
the park.
Saturday morning watch with
No, unfortunately not. I wish I wish the show would have been released on Saturday
Sure.
mornings,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah. We hear a lot about that. It's like, well, you could always do the rewatch.
yeah, for sure,
Yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah.
So what was your connection like with X-Men and specifically the original animated series before joining the show?
Yeah, well, I mean, so I'm part of that generation that grew up with the original 92 series. Just saying that out loud makes my bones hurt. But and it's funny because initially it wasn't even the initial broadcast that got me in on it. It was the I love talking about this, but it was the Pizza Hut combo promo that they did with Night of the Sentinels 1 and 2. Well, you remember like the cup and like the cool like pull-out poster and uh I wore those tapes out, and that's how I got I guess acclimated to the X-Men was just watching Morph die over and over on VHS. But yeah, it was that and the Konami, the initial, original Konami game, the arcade game that got me all hype about X-Men and got me into them.
How massive was the responsibility of being a part of a show like X-Men '97? Because it's not necessarily related to the MCU, but it's the first time that Marvel Studios releases an X-Men title to the world,
Right.
which gives
So
a general idea of basically how the characters will be handled. Did that
mhm.
feel a little sort of daunting to step into that world?
I mean, it was like one, yeah, like so to be honest, it was never not in our purview. It was never unbeknownst to us the torch that we bear, right? The responsibility that we have, the you know the onus to get it right, you know. Because yeah, it is not the Marvel's first venture into animation, but it's Marvel's first real venture into the X-Men. So it's like, we're not going to be allowed to mess it up. And so yeah, like to say that it was daunting. Like if anything's daunting, you don't go into it. But like when you have a good team, you have a good vision, you have good scripts, and you have the backing of the studio, it's like, yeah, why not? Let's go in. So the responsibility to do the IP justice and the characters justice and these stories justice, and validate bringing it back, not underselling the themes and the reason why X-Men were created in the first place, the allegories for prejudice. It always should be, always has to be, always needs to be about that, right? So to understand that we were going in the right path, it could be daunting, yeah, but at the end of the day, you can't focus on that. You got to just focus on making what you're making. Obviously we're fans too, so when we say like we have fans in mind, it's us and the fans as well. But yeah, it's you can't really focus on that stuff because you got to focus on, if you're too worried about that, you're not going to be putting 100% into the work, you know.
So when the show got announced, I think it was in 21. I had never watched the animated series, but it was on Disney Plus, so I checked it out.
Oh, right on,
So
yeah.
binged the whole thing, and I absolutely loved it. But a lot of my friends who have watched X-Men '97 had not seen the animated series
Uh,
before, and so I'm wondering, like, how do you make the show accessible for people who may never have seen the original animated series, while also, celebrating what came before in the
right,
original
right, right.
show, and sort of tipping the hat to the fans who have seen and loved it.
Well, I mean, one, you have to have love for the IP and you have to have love for the original show. And that stems from the top down. It started with Bo DeMeo's vision, the story Bible, and in the scripts with he in the writers' room, and us on the visual department. We carry that torch up to screen. Uh, it it starts by just one, Marvel has to want to do it, right? And then they have to find the person who they feel can carry that torch, and then have to find the team that can get it visually done. But just getting to be a part of that whole team. And again, this is a huge team that makes this stuff work. No single person can do this on their own. Getting to be a part of that team, that's been the best part of this. It's like, not only is it cool to have the fans receive this so well, but it's another, it's cool to also know that, man, we put a lot of good hard work into this. A lot of passion went into this. It's still going into it. It's by fans for fans. you know, if that makes sense. And so, yeah, just getting to be able to part of that is pretty rad.
And in terms of the sort of 2D hand-drawn animation style
Mm,
of the show, obviously animation has evolved from the time the original show came out.
right.
I'm wondering if there was a sort of certain design that you guys wanted to retain from the original series to capture that sort of 90s look and feel, but also giving it a sort of more modern, contemporary
Mhm.
personality to it.
Right. So, at the end of the day, we are a spiritual successor. We are a revival, right? We're not like a reboot. So if we do too many new changes or change too many things within the DNA of the show, we're no longer that show. We're no longer that, that target that we're trying to shoot for. So with that being said, it was studying a lot of like what were like, for example, we just give ourselves false parameters in the show. Meaning what did they have technologically available at the time? What were they able to do storytelling wise, camera wise, animation wise? What were their limitations and why were those limitations there? Understanding that helps us go, okay, cool, we want to do this. Ooh, this is a little too fancy. This is a little too 4K. We got to make a little more potato out of it, right? So how would they have done this back then? And then understanding, and we apply that to everything, whether it's color, final picture, sound effects. We just kind of even down to the writing, it's all how would they have done this back then, and how can we mimic that and give respect to that while bringing it into 4K? Because at the end of the day, we're making the show that you remember, not the show verbatim. Like you said earlier, look, man, it's been 30 plus years since this show's been out, and we've learned a lot, just in the field of animation, TV animation, storytelling, uh, action adventure storytelling, comic book storytelling. Like we've just grown as storytellers and as an audience. So to do the show verbatim wouldn't do it justice, but to give you the show you remember, if that makes sense, bringing that action into 4K, bringing in mutant abilities and power combos that we haven't seen before, but without breaking canon, right? A lot of that, all of that stuff goes in, and even down to like meticulously handling our post. We have a custom frame jutter filter that anybody can just slap a VHS filter on something and call it vintage, but we were looking into the artistry and the science of why things were done and looked the way they did back then. Like for example, back then, no matter what you did in post, everything got put on VHS transfer for broadcast. Everything got put on VHS transfer. So you're always going to have a certain amount of, you know, VHSiness or broadcast glitchiness in that. And so understanding that's like, oh, cool. We need to put that sort of vibe and feel into our show. Um, that's just one example of the myriad of things from top down that every department does and working together to kind of make this show. It's a show we remember, and it's the show uh yeah, the show you remember, but it's also the show in 4K.
I'm assuming it was also important to have as many members of the original cast as possible to
Oh
reprise
yeah,
the
oh
roles
yeah,
and also play. Some of them have played different characters than they did in
oh yeah,
the
and
original
that's
show.
what was, and that was what was exciting to me about joining the project, because a lot of that stuff was already sort of decided right before I got on or while I was on, and just kind of talking, but it was always known like, look, if we're going to be a revival, we can't not have one, the theme song. We're doing the theme song. Two, as much of the original, the OG cast that are with us and still have that vocal integrity, hell yeah, bring them back into the sandbox. It was never a second guess, and that's awesome. And for those who are still with us and don't exactly have that vocal integrity, for like again, it's been 30 years. Time hits us all. We still brought back those OG voice casts and actors to play in the sandbox, still to be reoccurring characters. Or maybe have some new ones in season two. But yeah, that was one of the things that really excited me about this, the reverence and the respect and the love for the original show, understanding that while yes, we made a damn good show, and everybody has the right to kind of enjoy the work that they did, but at the end of the day, we are only here because we are standing on the shoulders of the original show. With what Larry Houston and Eric and Julia Leewald did and their team. Without them, we wouldn't have this. and we wouldn't have the MCU, you know, like they gave us the MCU before we got the MCU. You know what I mean? So, and everything I like to point out in interviews is that every cameo in the original X-Men show is illegal. I mean, not anymore. They own all the characters, but back then Larry had to do some ninja moves to get characters on screen.
Oh, that was the thing when I watched the original show and I saw like Doctor Strange pop up. I was like, wait, what?
Yeah, so like when you're watching, you know, and the way, you know, to go back to something you were asking too, but like, you know, how do we captivate audiences who have never seen the original show? One, again, shout out and credit to, you know, Bo and the writers room. It starts there, and it starts with Marvel wanting to have that vision as well. But the best thing about this show is ideally watching one makes you want to go watch the other. That's, you know, that's the point, because it is so ingrained where we take place where the original show left off, right? So well, graduation day, Xavier is off, you know, in the Shi'ar homeworld with his bird girlfriend, Empress Lilandra, you know, right? Because he can't, I mean, he's dead to the world, but you know, they got to go heal him. Magneto's going, man, am I the bad guy? You know, and Cyclops is having his leader aimless sort of wandering thing that he does. That's where we leave the X-Men, you know, and then and our show picks up right after that. So you know, there's just so many, there's just certain things that have to be ingrained, and ideally, like, you know, going back to that point, if you watch our show, it makes you want to go watch the OG show. If you were a fan of the OG show, it makes you want to tune into this show. And you know, everybody gets all the candy.
One of the things that I really love the most about the show is that the title sequence that plays at the beginning of each
Oh yeah.
episode changes from week to week
Mhm.
based on
Yeah,
what's
yeah,
happening
yeah.
in the show. Like at the first episode, you've got Xavier, then it's revealed that he's dead, and then Magneto's there in the second episode. I'm wondering if you could talk about the process of sort of coming up with this sort of evolving title
Oh yeah.
sequence.
Yeah, yeah. So one, I got to give absolute shout out to Larry Houston, because our stuff is just based off his original OG boards, which myself and the other directors, we got to actually hold and touch, which is amazing. He just keeps them in a manila envelope like this big. The original board was like a 5 minute thing. Like it's like what? So anyways, but and also I got to give absolute credit to our episodic directors, Emmett Yanimura and Chase Conley. They were really ones spearheading getting that stuff done. You know, I helped a lot with post and just overall organization, but at the end of the day, those three, you know, did a lot of the good work on there. And the mandate to want to change stuff, I believe, I think it was initially a Bo idea that came out of like a Brad meeting at some point. Like I wasn't in that room when that happened, but it was just like, oh hey, by the way, we're doing this. Like, yes. So because it's you could always tell when a show has budget based on the opening title sequence. If they have just pulls from the episode, you know, okay, it was within the budget. If they have their own title sequence, there was a budget ideally for that title sequence specifically. And you know, for us, it was really cool to have the backing from Marvel and support. And they're like, yeah, we know guac is extra here. You know, and it's cool because we validate that opening title with story. It's all story relevant. That's the best part. It's not just gimmicky. It's not just let's throw cameos in there. It really is according to story. And I'm sure the big one that most people catch is we got Nightcrawler. Kurt, I mean, besides, I mean, Bishop and just Magneto getting a title card, right? But like, we get Kurt, but it's also at what cost? You know, it all matters. So it's like, you know, that was fun for us knowing ahead of time that, oh, we got to change. So Kurt's going to finally get in the roster because we're going to lose Gambit in the roster. So we got to fill that spot. So it's kind of, you know, even for us, it was yay. Uh-huh. So, you know, we feel it. We feel it, fans. Feel the same thing.
So I think you directed also the first episode
Mhm.
to Me, My X-Men. And the immediate thing
Yeah.
that I noticed very early on was how Cyclops finally got his time to
Yeah.
shine.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, like in the live action movies, it's sort of the guy that shoots lasers out of his eyes, but here
And
his
yeah, right.
powers,
He shoots lasers and he whines.
yeah.
That's about it. Right.
But here his powers are actually treated as a concussive
And
force.
he's a leader.
Yeah.
So,
Oh yeah.
just so you know, like that's one of the things that like we had meetings on, and I was like, you know, pushing up the glasses. His optic blast is not a heat blast. It's not a heat blast. There should be no burn residue, no smoke if we can help it. But it was very much like, yeah, no, 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 no. You know, it was one of the things like, you know, from the top down, like, we got to get this right. All the mutant powers, we got to get them right. But yeah, it's directing on that first one was fun because it was also directing on that while still staffing up the rest of the team and still, you know, supervising on everything else getting done too. Um, yeah, like, look, man, Cyclops was written that way. He was written as a leader, and following the script, it wasn't hard to be inspired to want to board him, you know, in an epic way. My favorite was working on all the myriad of things I got to draw, but working on the opening fight scene. When we really see Cyclops come in and do his nasty work for like the first time that we, you know, strafing and using his concussive blast to move and stuff. That was a conversation via myself and Bo like early on in the process. And in the script, it was really cool because it was written in a way where Scott is surrounded and he's doing, I believe it's quoted, bone crunching optic blasts. So essentially, it was we need to see Cyclops in close quarters combat because we've never seen Cyclops in close quarters combat. He wouldn't fight that way, right? If he has a choice, he's going to be the distance fighter. What happens when he doesn't have that choice? It's going to happen. They have a danger room. They've trained for this. Let's see it, you know? So, and shout out to our original board artist, or my original board artist on that one, Matt Bordenave. He gave me some fun stuff to work with on the first pass, and then I was able to go in and be like, cool, we need this, you know, let's push this here. And but ideally, I'm gonna get to release those boards hopefully soon, just so we can start showing the audience some stuff. But same thing with the optic blast landing, man. That was in script, and when I read that, I was like, I want to do this. I know how this needs to be shot. Let me do this. You know, and having Scott go full point break in the middle of the air, owning that, you know, stuff was fun. And getting to, because initially in the script it was like a Sentinel lands on the Blackbird gets ripped in half. The X-Men save each other, but in the kerfuffle, they kind of forget about Cyclops and he's left in the distance. I was like, well, we don't want to do that. You know, we don't want to make the X-Men look like they don't, you know, they forgot their leader. This is a danger room session. They planned for this, you know, like, so one of my contributions to the script was, why can't the Sentinel land on the Blackbird but rip Cyclops out and, you know, thrown, and so Cyclops gets separated through circumstance, and, you know, there's even more reason for him to be a badass, right? So like it's those little things like honoring the script and honoring the intention of the script and pushing those forward in the visual medium that myself and our episodic directors do for every episode. Yeah, so like getting to direct on the first one was fun to help find the voice, you know, the pacing and stuff, but then getting to just supervise over every episode, that's been just an insane gift, man. Like, if I could be just frank, it's cool. It's a cool experience. Like, I get to touch every facet of the show, and Marvel trusts me with that, right? And I get to work very closely with all departments of our team to make sure that every step of the way, we're visually accomplishing the overall goal that was of the Bible and Marvel's, and, you know, Bo's vision and the goal of the show. So uh yeah, man, I'm still on cloud nine about it.
And I previously spoke to the Newton brothers about their
Oh
composing
man, I
work
love those guys. Yeah.
on the show. I mean, they've really knocked it out of the
Talk
park.
about elevating the
Yeah.
visual, right?
Oh
Like,
yeah.
I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about their stuff. Their choir, all choir version of the X-Men theme. Like,
Yeah.
what the hell? That thing hits so hard. And just talk about range with these guys. I am still shocked. Like, I shouldn't be because they're fucking amazing, but I'm shocked at how many times these dudes can recompose the X-Men theme and it slaps every time, whether it's for action, whether it's for drama, somberness, you know, death, suspense. Not only are they just good people, they're amazingly skilled. They love what they do. They bring the passion every day. And I'm excited. I'm looking forward to jamming with them in season 2 for more epic shit.
Did you have any discussions with them on like how the
Oh yeah, yeah.
overall?
So
Yeah.
so Bo led the charge initially on a lot of the Newton Brothers stuff because, you know, it fits in tone with what he had in mind. But when it came, so for the initial like first meetings of, oh, we want this here, we want that there. Once we started getting playbacks, or like a demo, we call them demos to, okay, this is what we composed for these, for this episode, let's sit and watch. That was where I was able to come in because I do have a music background as well, predominantly in, jazz and whatnot, but I'm able to speak the lingo, so to speak. So I would be brought in for there so I could give a good listen and be able to talk musically as much as I can. I'm not the aficionado that the Newton brothers are, but, be able to speak some language and communicate that across the board to get to work with them in that regard. Yeah, and then also with mixes and final stuff, and definitely worked with them in tandem on the main theme. Man, I don't even want to say how many passes we did on that because I can't remember because it was a lot, and they're just gung ho every time, man. And so like those guys deserve all the flowers and they deserve all the credit for the work that they put in. The whole music department, everybody in music is just phenomenal, man.
And is there something that you would say was your most rewarding aspect of working on the show?
Mm. One, getting it done, and no, like so, like being able to say it's yours now. It's not ours anymore. It's yours. Do with it what you will. But like just being able to say, man, we did that. We got season one done. Like that's cool. Marvel trusted us. We worked with our studios. We worked with our vendors. We worked with all these teams, and it all got done. And not only is it done, but it's being received as well as it is. Like that's amazing. Like I have never experienced the level of wide reception as I have and as the team has on their show. So I am forever grateful for that. And it's something that like, yeah, man, I'm taking this. This is an experience I'm going to take with me. Absolutely. This is going to be in that all-time top, tier. Also, my other favorite experience is getting a toy made inspired out of one of the, so in episode one, the Wolverine Gambit kinetic claws. That wasn't scripted. That was just initially from I was just trying to get a job. That was from my storyboard pitch, man. And then Bowen and everybody else in Marvel, they were like, no, put that in. It's cool. There was something at the end of episode one where we were trying to get a beat to work. We were trying to get the Master Mold beat to work, and it's like, well, we don't want to drag out a whole nother thing. Long story short, it was like, hey, that thing you did in the board, in your initial board, let's just drop that in there. So to make that one canon, which was cool in the show, but then two, on these figures, one, it's the only way you can get Gambit, right?
Yeah.
In this size. But if you notice, they all come with cool like little accessories and stuff, but Wolverine comes with a kinetically charged thing. And I was told that's based on because of the whole episode one thing with his kinetic class. So I'm like, hey, that's cool. I'll take that.
That is awesome.
Right? Like, oh, I got inspired toys. Dope.
Well, it was really great talking today, Jake, on
Same, Max, same.
X-Men 97. Congratulations. I mean, the show is just absolutely just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a huge team effort, dude. And we are absolutely well underway baking the cake for season 2. So
well, I cannot wait for season 2 when it eventually comes out. I wish you all the best on that, and I hope that you have a very good rest of your day.
You too, Max. Thanks very much, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you.